Hey all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, joined once again by James Duffy. And this is going to be a character profile for James's character, Theodore Lyons, in our Return of the Runefangs game. So if you're watching our recap videos, and I mentioned Theodore, not only can you see his picture on Return of the Runefangs on Facebook, but you can watch this video first, and James will tell you all about the character. So let's go down the line, James. What does Theodore Lyons look like?
Well, he's ugly. It's probably the first noble thing about Theodore.
Excellent.
He's also ripped and muscly, as any good, strong character may be. He has black hair. It's pretty standard. Sort of like the Caesar grease hair, you know, when it's cropped like that, but it's all sort of greasy and maybe a little bit shiny. He wears monk's vestments, so there's not too much to go in there that I could embellish on. Basically just a brown canvas sack fitted really well. There's leather straps.
Very good. Now, what's Theodore's personality like?
He's reserved. He's sort of a tortured soul. He was given to a monastery when he was a child. Now, I'm not sure how much you've talked about this character in the past.
We haven't done any player profile video that I recall.
All right, so I'll start soft. He's a product of rape, and he's a product of a noble woman who was raped by an orc. Probably, maybe multiple orcs, but only one of the seeds, you know, planted in there. So his history, based on that, is that he is a noble, but he is also half orc blood, which basically means he has no claim to nobility. But within that model, there's an heirloom from a family line, which would be his, which has ended. And so he is the last remaining member of that family line. So there's potential for a claim to be made there depending on how the politics goes down. The interesting thing about that is he is the perfect piece within that picture to allow for that to grow, for his claim to be made. But with him also being that piece, he's a little bit ignorant. In fact, he's a lot ignorant. He's honor-bound and he's naive, which are two traits that affect your statistical rolls for some certain mechanics like intrigue and empathy, which really helps him maintain his ignorance, even if I'm making rolls and I'm actively trying to get him out of the hole. Which is important to me as a character because he should be attempting to play towards his best interests, and he absolutely will be. But it's also important for me as a player to make sure that his actions reflect his character very strongly. And so that detriment to those skills, intrigue and empathy, basically he can be easily lied to, and he's going to easily obey orders. So he's very bossable. You can tell him to do all sorts of things and he'll listen. But he is also a noble in some senses, which adds a lot of irony to sort of the structure of the story here. One thing I really like about it is specifically that point of wanting to do something as a player outside of my character. I would love to see Theodore become a noble somehow. It would be an excellent story if that should happen. But as I'm watching the story develop, I know that that's probably not going to happen. And that to me is fundamentally interesting. It's sort of the struggle to survive within this world of nobility, this world of structure and class. Because he fits there very strongly again as such a strong piece to start a new noble line, which can have so many implications across the story. But his ability to do this on his own is extremely limited. So he's going to have to rely on all sorts of different characters to have that come to fruition, which gives the DM lots of elements to bring in NPCs, or me as a player, I'm sure I could design some NPCs as well, should Dave want to bring them up.
Yeah, Theodore is definitely the best integrated character into the story. I wouldn't say he's got the most backstory that he brought in, but what was already there, he's latched onto it like an octopus, which means that he's very important to the story. He's all over it. So even people who have done theoretically more work in writing bigger backstories, they're not as important because he latched onto it, which is a great technique as part of power role-playing. So I thought that was great that you really found where we were already going, and you said, I'm going to be there first. So. Now, what about Theodore's relationships with the other players, with Ulrich, with Lewin, and Sauvage, and Albrecht?
Yeah, he definitely has interesting relationships there. The thing about Theodore is his strongest relationship is with himself, and that comes from growing up in the monastery and being sort of semi-disfigured by being half-orc-blooded. But no one's ever told him this. I think in this point in the campaign he's technically unaware, although he is starting to pick up on all the verbal interplay. All the nobles address him in very sort of backhanded compliment type ways. They mention his blood a lot and things like that. I mean, he's not stupid. He's just disadvantaged. He comes from a development of ignorance, and that doesn't mean that he's not going to develop from his current point. It just means that on that curve of development, which is exponential, that he's lower on it, and he will make his way up that curve, and things will become very interesting. His relationships to the other characters are also pretty interesting. He's given a vow to the house, so he's essentially. Is there a word for that?
Bound to the house.
Bound to the house. So he's bound to the house, and he's bound to the authority of the hierarchy of that house, which would be Lewin, and then whoever's above Ulrich.
Yeah, everyone's above Ulrich except you. No, it's Lord York is really the official head, but Lewin and Sauvage command a lot of respect, and then Bernard is also a head of Ulrich. But Ulrich's a member as well, yes.
Okay.
And you're sworn to the house as a whole. And when the house starts to divide against itself, that's great for your character. Cause you had to pick where to go and angst about it. Yeah.
And there's already been a conflict because of that oath. Because of his self-centeredness, which sort of comes from being abandoned and never knowing what's going on. It's very easy for him to attach to an oath and to attach to a house, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to keep that oath. He may not really understand what the implications of that are. It's just sort of such a habit, being brought up in a monastery and always being an underling, to attach yourself to an oath, to attach yourself to some greater importance than yourself. And so he attached himself to this house quite readily. And he worked for them for a bit as a brewmaster, got himself in, started making money, actually supporting himself and helping to improve the house legitimately in a way that is practical, which is really how I want to play Theodore out as he develops. In contrast to this oath, he has this claim to a noble line, so you can start a house should that claim be successful. So you can't really make a claim and start your own noble house if you're bound already to a small house like House Berengar.
Yeah, because the house that Theodore was from was that of a count, whereas the Berengars are they're not even barons; they're just landed lords. So it does create that odd web of feudal interplay where the count, who's supposed to be way up here, is sworn to the lords who are way down there. And I mean, this did occasionally happen in real life, but not usually for very long. So it'll be interesting to see how that does play out, and if the loyalties reverse, or if that link is severed.
Mm-hmm. And it's already been threatened, that bond. There is a scene, I'm not sure which episode it would be, but we were on a ship, the Quetzalcoatl, on our way up the River Aver, and that ship was attacked by some mercenary group. Mm-hmm. Now, I wasn't actually there for that session, unfortunately, so I couldn't role play during it. But I told Dave essentially what I wanted to happen with my character, which was that he should disappear somehow. I left it vague because I don't know what's going to happen during the session. You should never assume you know where things are going to go, because as soon as like 2 or 3 elements change that are important, things get all out of whack. So I believe he jumped off the ship and is starting to drown, and he clung to a barrel. And then he's rescued by Count Darlene, of House Nestat.
Nestel.
House Nestel.
Her picture's on the Facebook group too.
And she is going to kill Theodore. She's there with a big knight in shining armor, with his big, nice sword. All the lords looking down on poor Theodore, and they're going to slay him just for being born with a potential claim. And they want to get rid of that. And she offers... No, she doesn't offer to let me live. I beg for my life. Cold, shivering, and scared. And she asks if I'm willing to forswear my oaths to House Berengar and my oaths to the Knight's Order, in order to gain my life back. And that's really when the character changed, because that's the main conflict between his background story and what's actually happening in the campaign. So at that pivotal moment, he does decide to forswear those oaths, as long as it will ensure his freedom as a man, which is a great theme in this story because of the noble structure and his half-bloodedness. He isn't really a man. To say that he desires his freedom as a man is kind of a challenge to the aristocracy.
Yeah, so the whole social construct.
Yeah, fuck you guys. I just want to be free. And she says that she can make that happen to Theodore's great jubilance and shivering cold stares. And lets him down into the lower deck of the hull. And down there, he's greeted by Wilhelmina, who is actually a love interest of Ulrich Berengar, which is really perfect. And it turns out that she is also of the same family line that I am a part of.
She's your long-lost cousin.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know you had. She didn't know she had you.
But her claim is very weak because she's a woman, which is sort of another point of interest within this structure. We have me unable to make a claim because I'm half-blooded, and we have her unable to make a claim because she's a woman. So there's all this sort of social interest because they're not socially developed. They don't have a civil rights movement. They're really impotent as people because of who they were born as. Despite this impotence, they have great potential and great power, which is essentially what I'm looking to develop as a character, is that I may be set back because of who I am, but I'm also not set back at all because of who I am and what I'm going to do to struggle and to survive within this structure. I will take that whole structure on. And that's sort of where we're at now with Theodore. There's some other interesting points of intrigue, but I'm not sure if Ulrich Berengar is going to be watching this video.
Who knows? Well, I don't know when I'll publish it anyway.
Yeah.
It could be months from now, or it could be tomorrow.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, I'm sort of running my character Theodore right now, and I'm also partially running the Knights of the Order. I'm in control of Franz, who is the head of the order.
Yeah, we'll just stick to Theodore for this video.
Okay.
I did want to ask you to describe Theodore's fighting style as well.
Okay.
Just in as much detail as you care.
Yeah. It's always a little tough to describe those sorts of things because it is an imaginative world. If you say I swing my sword, that's going to mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. But his fighting style focuses on not wearing armor and having a large sword, which is sort of a interesting contrast. Usually you're going to have the faster characters have knives, and they're going to be very quick in combat, and they're going to be the ones without armor. And then those who choose to go for a larger weapon are going to have armor to sort of complement that fighting style. So his fighting style is based on never giving up position, and it's sort of part of the philosophy of the knightly order, is that we don't need armor because we are so far superior within our focus in combat that we won't require it. And in any situation in which armor would be required, we have a way to compensate for that with strategy. Now, they do focus on the greatsword, and that's because it's a greatsword. Like, you swing it and it kills your target, and that's essentially what you're looking for. And then they would have smaller phalanxes who would just be spearmen, and maybe some bowmen as well, just to sort of account for some weaknesses in those defenses. If someone were to, send a cavalry charge, for example, at someone with a greatsword and no armor, they're not going to be in a great position. Now, they're going to be in a better position than someone with armor and a greatsword because they can at least run away. And if they can't run away, then they can at least dodge more efficiently, which is what they focus on, is their prowess versus the other person's prowess, instead of our technology versus your technology. The only real point in there that doesn't fit that philosophy would be focusing on the great sword, because it is better technology, arguably, than a short sword.
Excellent. Was there anything? I think that's pretty thorough. Is there anything else to add for Theodore? I think that covers everything.
Yeah, I think that does cover everything.
It's a very well-made character, excellently role-played by James. I look forward to seeing where that character goes and evolves to in the future. And you can check it out too, right here on YouTube. Return of the Runefangs. And of course, as I said, you can check his portrait out on Facebook at Return of the Runefangs.
Check out the links.
Check out the links. I'm not going to post links. And
made me look like a fool.
I did, and we even got a theme song for him, which was "Heart of a Lion" from Judas Priest.
Chosen with no input from me.
I chose that. I told everybody to pick a theme song, or I'd pick one for them, and nobody did. So everybody gets Judas Priest and Iron Maiden theme songs until they get their own. But with that, I'm going to sign out. Everybody have a good day in YouTube land.